Once again, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning. Welcome
Waalaikumsalam
to
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
welcome to the 10 o'clock session for today. We will be examining Matilda Odelia Pandora Naibaho's work, or she's more comfortable being called Ode. Her work entitled Identification of the Factors Causing the Loss of Historical Image along the Antara Road Corridor in Pasar Baru. Ode, you will have about 20 to 30 minutes to present your work, and then we'll continue with question and answers and discussions. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Pak Prananda. So good morning, Pak Ilman, Pak Prananda, and Pak Putu. I will introduce myself once again. My name is Matilda Odelia Pandora Nebaho, and I'm part of the IUP class students. So my student number is 12 in IUP class. And today I will be presenting my final project or thesis paper, which is my title is Identification of the Factors Causing the Loss of the Historical Image of Historical Corridor in Antara Road, Pasar Baru. So in this presentations, I will divide it into 4 parts. The first one will be the introduction, the second one will be the literature review, and the third chapter will be the research methodology, and lastly, the overview of my study case. For the first chapter, the first one, there's the background. So historical area is a collection of several historical sites that make up as an urban areas. And lately, the building in the historical area have changed and in functions and also shifted in their development. This shifting in function giving a high pressure, which make the building cannot adapt in times dynamics needs in a continue of the time. And at the end, it could causes the loss of historical image as a historical area. And my cases, which is Pasar Baru, it is established in 1820. Pasar Baru is one of the oldest shopping district in Jakarta, in the central Jakarta, and gave its name to the administrative village. And then Pasar Baru is lined with a number of shops, restaurants, and also several shopping centers. Most of the shops here sell textiles, shoes, clothes, and other fashion products such as sportswear, watches, and jewelries. Culturally, the areas demonstrates a fusions of Indonesian, Dutch colonial, Chinese, and Indian cultures. And Pasar Baru is very popular, known as the Jakarta's Little India, due to the fact that large number of Indian Indonesian settled in this area. And Pasar Baru also began to lose out to the modern shopping malls in the late 70s and early of 80s to malls such as Gajah Mada Plaza, Aldiran Plaza, and Ratu Plaza, and more, losing out the popularity around 90s to the air-conditioned malls development in around that time. And right now, entering its 200th year, Pasar Baru is faced with a new challenge to survive the pandemic, which all of us happen to be experienced. One of them is changing the functions of the building in the historic commercial area towards more modern one. So they adapt more to the modernized conditions. In 2021, it was stated that interventions to preserve historic building had been carried out, namely that several historic buildings such as the Antara Museum and the Post Office building were activated and used as a place for young people to hang out. Following the times, buildings have also been transferred to follow current modernizations conditions, and the change that have occurred to some of this building will also change the image of the area. So the emergence of these new buildings and the change of the building is one of the causes of change in the character of the area, which previously had a characteristic of colonial style, right now more into the modern styles. And then the aim and objectives that I will be having in this research is for the problem or problem formulation is how the current historical image and what affected the historical image of Antara Road Corridor in Pasar Baru, Jakarta. And the purpose of my research is based on the existing problem is to formulate the factors causing the loss of historical image in Pasar Baru in the historic corridor Antara Road. And I formulate three targets. The first one is formulation of criteria and principles of historic area in the city center based on the literature review. The second one is identifying the condition of Antara Road corridor. And lastly, to formulate the aspect that result in change to the Pasar Baru historical image. And my scope of study case is the delineation taken includes all of the buildings and also the visual of the physicals that included in the all along the corridor of Antara, started from the end of Antara Road, which is actually it's ending here, and until in front of the three intersections in front of the gate of Pasar Baru, main gate of Pasar Baru. And my research framework, the first one is the background. So in 2021, it was stated that there is an intervention to preserve historic buildings had been carried out, namely that several historic buildings, such as Antara Museum and then Post Office Building, were activated and used as a place for young people to hang out. Following the times, buildings have also been transformed to follow the current modernization conditions. And the change that occurred to some of these buildings will also change the image of the area. And then the problem formulations here is how is the current historical image of and what affected the historical image of Antara Road, Corridor Pasar Baru Jakarta, which my main goal is to formulate the factors causing loss of historical image of Pasar Baru as a Pasar Baru area in historic corridor and Antara Road corridor. And then I have three targets, which is I already told you before. And the output will be criteria and principle of historical area in the city center based on literature review. The second one is the current conditions of the Antara Road corridor. And lastly, the aspect that result in change to the Pasar Baru historical image. And then next, I will be talking about the literature review. So the first one, I'd like to talk about the image. So image from the Big Indonesian Dictionary is a pictures or a form, and also image that many people have known about something. And Kevin Litz said that environmental imagery is a two process between the observer and the object being observed, or also known as the impression or perceptions between the observer and his environment. Kevin Litch mentioned about that in his book, Image of the City. However, the image or the impression or the face of the area is given by the crowd, not only one individual. So it needs a lot of subjects to put this image, as well as more emphasis on the physical environment or as quality or of physical object, such as color, shape, strong structure, and etc. So it will create a different appearance and attract more attention. So each subjects can sense and experience a different things. That's why we can come up to average of the data. He also reveals that there are 5 elements make up the image. The first one, paths. Paths are channels along the observers habitually or occasionally move. It may be roads and also canals. People observe the city or the area as they pass through it. So it's one of the elements that Kevin mentioned. The second one is edges. Edges are linear elements that observe or perceive as paths. They are the boundaries between the two faces, linear breaks, and continuity, such as edge of the building, the wall, the railroad cut, and they are lateral references rather than coordinate axes, or they may be joints where two regions are linked and joined together. And then the next one is a district. It's a two-dimensional area where the observer are inside or mentally enters and also can be recognizable from the outside by the exterior reference that's seen from the outside. Most of the people structure the areas to some extent in this way with individual difference as to what path are, sorry. And the next is the knots. Notes or points is like a strategic places in the city that the observer can enter. And also it has an intensive focus to where or this subject is traveling. It also may be the primary junction or a break transportation or a junction to convergence of lines and moment shift from the one structure to another. And then lastly, landmarks. It's another type from the other type that I've been talking before. This one, observer doesn't really enter to them. It's very external, and they're usually simple physical objects like buildings, signs, shops, or mountains. And for historically, UNESCO classifies cultural heritage into two areas, namely the cultural heritage and natural heritage. They also have the criteria for cultural heritage consists of monuments, buildings, groups, and sites. Also, I have the definition from ICOMOS or International Council of Monument Sites in 1987. The conserved area includes historical characters, both physically and the spirit of the area. And they classify these historical characters into four categories. The first one, regional patterns, include road patterns and settlement patterns. The second one, the relationship form between the open space and the building. The third one, the appearance of the exterior and interior of the building. And lastly, the Fourier's function of accommodated data. And also, there is a definition from Australian National Film and Sound Archive that heritage value incorporates the cultural significance of the title based on the factors such as aesthetics, historical, social, evidentiary, and scientific value. So based on that two definitions, I put up some historical image elements into five. Combine them. The first one, there's path. So before going to the elements, after combining the definitions, so more comprehensively, the image for historical area refers to the perceptions, impression, and visualization given by the subject, which consists of a collection spaces or building with the characteristic of belonging to certain aesthetic of the same architectural uniformity. And at the same time, it can influence the surrounding places with aim of attracting the wider community. The first elements is path. Path is a line where observers are able to move, and the perceptions that is formed is the view of captured community when passing through the historic area. And then there is road patterns. With high connectivity are needed to facilitate access to the public. The road or route referred to here is related to any type mobility used by the general public. And then facade, also very important in collecting image of the historical area. The image of historical building facades are mostly represented through their visual elements because facade is the face of the building that shows its value and structure. And then the second one is the edge element. This element not as dominant as pad, but it's very important. So uh it's it's like the outline of the city or area, such as wall corridors, which is I mentioned about pedestrian here. So pedestrian path are very important to provide the area identity. The third one, it's nodes. Nodes may simply concentrate deriving their importance of some physical use or characters as a hangout on a street corner. Therefore, these nodes are referred to as a junction because they are places where people visit for the first time because they become intersections with the other areas. They may also be referred to as key places, so nodes take part of the concentration of the functions. The fourth one is a district. So district has I've been told you before. So district as an image of feature of a historic, but I will mention about the relationship between people and their surroundings are basic form of giving image to the area. So the inhabitants are the one whose reach of social production and social interaction here. So the more inhabitants, the more same inhabitants, the more strong characteristic that can be seen from the other people outside. Lastly, the landmarks. Landmarks usually still have a great historical value and are around the point. The specialty of the landmark come because it provides some identity of about ethnic, religion, or other type of society classification. Uniqueness of the landmark itself come from the value of the key factor that the building radiates, which is coming from the form aesthetically, economically, and scientifically extensively different. My previous research, my previous research is coming from two different area. The first one in Malaysia. So the research title is Revitalizing a Historical Corridor to Sustain Architectural and Cultural Heritage, a GIS-based case study in Al Sanjak. So the result, approximately 42% of the building lost their historical fabric due to the neglect and several other reasons. And the method that was conducted here by field scoring for each building based on the Newman's model. And the research indicators they use here is the time frame of the construction, land use change, architectural modification, and building condition. And the second one from Indonesia, the research title is Image Forming Element of Historical Area in the Center of the City of Malang. The result, there are two results. The first one, the historical image forming elements in the city center, namely Kayu Tangan Road, Pasar Besar Road, and this north element, Kayu Tangan intersections and Merdeka Square area. And the landmark elements will be Tugu Square and Jami Mosque. The second result is Klojen district can already be called a place because the identity of each element is known by more than 50% of the populations of the Malang city. They use descriptive analytical evaluative analysis, and the research indicators basically almost the same like me. The synthesis that I put, I have 5 indicators with the difference variables. For paths, I have road patterns and spatial facade. I have pedestrian. For district, I have 2 types of variable. The first one, architectural homogeneity, and the second one is inhabitants. For nodes, I have junctions and key places. Landmarks, I have specializations and uniqueness. All of the resource most likely coming from Kevin Lynch. And for spatial facet, I put another additional theory from stamps and design review and public preferences. And for pedestrian, I put some theory from Anggriani, the pedestrian ways dalam perencanaan kota Yayasan Humaniora Klaten. For the research methodology that I will be use, the research approach, I will be using the rationalistic approach. It is used to obtain the research result, which can be concluded from the research results adjusted to the theoretical basis. The research type that I will be used, the descriptive qualitative approach. It is used to understand the potential and socio-cultural character of the people in the research area and to understand the causes of the decline in the area's historical image through field survey interviews. So the research variables, it's like my synthesis, but my synthesa, and then the operational definition of the road patterns is the road or route referred to here is related to any type of mobility used by the general public. Road pattern with high connectivity are needed to facilitate the access for the public. For the special facet, definition, facet is the face of the building that show its value and structure during that period of the time. For the definition, operational definition for pedestrian paths and their attribute are very important to provide the visual regional identity. Architectural homogeneity, it's the definition when complex of building have architectural homogeneity with some similar historical background. For the inhabitants are the one whose reach and social productions and social interactions. Produce more strong characteristic that can be seen from the other people outside of the area. For junction is a node related to the concept of road because it is close to another area. And even in its journey and become an intensive place visited by people for the first time because it becomes an intersection with the other area. Key places, it's the concentration of these nodes is the point where the building level has the highest historical value compared to the other places. For landmarks, I divide it into 2. So specialization of the landmark come because it provide some identity about ethnics, religion, or other type of society classification. For uniqueness, the landmark itself come from a value or key factor that the building radiates, which is coming from the aesthetically, economically, and scientifically extensive difference. The data collection that I'll be used for primary, I'll be used the interview, observation, and questionnaire. So I'll be giving the questionnaire to the visitors along the Antara Road. For the secondary, I'll do the digital data tracing and study literature. For the analysis method, I have 3 targets. Each of them has their own analysis method. For the first target, I'll be using the qualitative data analysis process. And for the second target, I'll be using the empirical descriptive analysis and gap analysis. So the empirical analysis is used to identifying the primary data that is collaborated, while the gap analysis is used to showing the gap between the current condition and the ideal condition in determining of the areas. And the last target will be using the triangulation analysis. So combines the results of the data collection and the existing data sources in order to obtain a valid and scientific truths. For my population and sample, so the population in the study refers to all of the pedestrians moving through the Antara Road corridor. Within the predetermined area delineation, the number of sample is taken is 96, and respondents then rounded up to 100 respondents to facilitate the data collection. For the samples, I'll be taking several key stakeholders which can provide us specific information and also can share their perspective and interest from these groups. I divided into 3 stakeholders that are involved. The first one is DKI Jakarta Culture and Tourism Office. The second one, Pasar Baru District, Kelurahan Pasar Baru. The third one is academics and experts. This is my research stages, problem formulations, and then literature review, data collection, data analysis, and conclusion. The overview of my study case. Antara Corridor is a commercial area. It's located in Pasar Baru, so has a lot of cultural heritage building inside the Jakarta that was stated in the Jakarta Capital Region Spatial Plan, which is located in central Jakarta area. And my study only along with the 480 meters. And then I'll be talking about a little bit about the historical development of the area. So Pasar Baru or during the VOC era, it will be called the New Market or Pasar Baru. It's the oldest shopping center in Jakarta, which was founded in 1820. And this Pasar Baru existence is very related to the move of the colonial capital in Weltervreden. And it's very greatly influenced by its strategic locations, which is located in the center of New Batavia. And in 1877, many ethnic Chinese traders set up shops with the Chinatown's architectural style, so that Pasar Baru became the most prestigious trade shopping. So Pasar Baru, it's like the combinations between Chinese and European architectural adds to the beauty of this Pasar Baru atmospheres. It's also living its own characteristics. So because of the Chinese people and the visitors, which is the Dutch, it making their own characteristics. So also Pasar Baru is an area that has long been inhabited by the Chinese people called Baba. So Baba, it's like a mix between the natives Chinese and the people who speak Malay. So they have their own characteristic. They are selling or they are making their shop in their own houses. That's why Pasar Baru can be called as a street shop. Not only functioning as a shopping center in the Pasar Baru, there are also various historical buildings such as the worship for the Chinese community that has been existed since 17th century, and then there's a Sikh temple called Gurdwara by people of Indian descent, yeah. And then it's become more alive after the Army built an art building in the 1940 and was equipped by the Central Post Office. And in addition, Pasar Baru was also well known to the Dutch at that time as a place to order a good shoes or clothes. So it's for the upper middle level of the buyers because it can become from various nationalities, and most importantly, a lot of the products imported from foreign countries, such as watches, bags, and other, were traded in these shopping centers. Also in Pasar Baru, there is many Indian Indonesian, as I told you before. Around in 2002, there were around 2,000 Indian families that were founded living in Pasar Baru and Pintu areas, uh, Pasar Baru and Pintu areas, yeah. And in this Pasar Baru area, there are also places for the Sikh Indian society. Government of Pemprov DKI Jakarta since 2003 has routinely held the Pasar Baru Festival, which usually coincides with Jakarta birthday. And currently, among the shop, there is among the shop that existed since years ago and still existed until today, there are Kimia Pharma Pharmacy, Lee Lesheng Shop, and then Melati Home Furnishing Shop, Chung Chung Wat Shop, and then the Says Chunli Eyeglass Shop, and long-standing retailers were Isadas, Hariom, and Gehimal, and Woman's Shop in the Fabric Shop of Bombay, Lee Lara. This is my design survey. So for each target, for the first target, the data source will be from the secondary survey. The year that will be needed is 5 years, from 2022, and then 5 years before 2022. And then the data collection method is study of literature, analysis method is theoretical descriptive, and the output will be criteria and principle in managing historic areas. And the second one identified the current condition of the Antara Road corridor with the data source from primary and secondary survey along 1 year. And then data collection method is interviews, field observations, and literature studies. The analysis method is empirical descriptive and gap analysis. The output that will be shown here is the current conditions of historical image in the Antara Road corridor. And lastly, the formulation of aspects that result in change to the Pasar Baru historical image. The data resource will be from primary and secondary survey. The year also 5 years before, and then the data collection methods, it's interview, questionnaire, and literature study. The analysis method that will be used here is triangulations analysis, and the output will be aspects that form the image of the regional area. That's all for my presentations. Thank you for listening my presentations to the three of the lectures attending today.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ode. I'd like to invite Pak Rudi to provide us with his feedback and comments.
Thank you, Pak Nanda. Hello, Ode, how are you?
Hello, Pak. I'm doing fine.
Are you in Poland now?
Yeah, I'm in Poland right now,
Oh,
currently.
yeah. That is quite interesting. Okay, to use the time efficiently, let me start with some question. Okay. Okay, I start with the. Okay, let me open your proposal. We start. I will start with the problem formulation. Yeah. You wrote on the first paragraph that the problem occurs in Pasar Baru area is the decline of the vitality of the area. Yeah. one thing, the topic is about the loss of historical image, but uh, uh, the one thing, the topic is about the loss of historical image, but but on the other thing, you define the problem is the decline of the vitality of the area. Yeah. Can you describe it?
I think there is a missed. It's my lack of. So it's actually I don't want at the first time I want to talk about this vitality, but uh lately I changed the whole paper into the image only. So
Mhm.
I haven't checked it that I still write the vitality of the area are also not well targeted. So sorry, pa.
Okay. So you're still be focusing on the loss of historical image. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, yes, true. Right.
Yeah, okay. Still on the problem statement. What do you mean by you wrote that uh, yeah, you wrote on the I think 3 or 4 sentence following the first paragraph on the problem formulation. You wrote that changes in the function of the building resulted in changes in the character of the historical corridor in the area. What do you mean by changes in the function of the building has been resulting in changes in the character of historical corridor?
So there is a newspaper stating that
Mhm.
the Antara corridor changing the building starting from Antara Museum, they change it into like cafe or a place for the young people to hang out, and some of the building even change into a bank, BNI and etc. and
Yeah.
change the front the front facade, something like that.
So so it means that the changes in the function is part of the losing of the historical image.
Yeah, I want to talk it that way.
Mm, okay. And then the next, I want to discuss about the goals and objective part of your proposal. Uh, as mentioned here in your proposal, the purpose, the goal is what is it? Uh,
Factors
to
causing the
formulate
loss
the
of.
factors causing the loss of historical image. Yeah. This is the statement of the research goals. Yeah. And then
Hmm.
uh, you broke down into three research objectives. Uh, well, I will suggest you that that identifying is not part of the objective statement, since the identifying process is not containing the analytical activities. So you should uh, so you should restructure your research objective into, I think, two objective. Two objective will be enough. The first one is the to analyze or to formulate the criteria or principle or maybe factors that associated with the loss of historical image. And then the second objective will be the formulation of sorry, the second statement should be better, the formulation uh,
Aspects.
of aspect uh, aspect that related to the loss of historical image in the study area. those are my suggestions regarding the statement of the research objective. Okay, and then the
Pak.
scope of
Thank you.
scope of substance here. Specifically on the page. Oh, you forgot to put the page number on your proposal.
Oh,
Okay, that will be fine. Okay.
okay,
Subchapter
Pak. Thank you.
subchapter 1.4.3 scope of substance. You wrote that
Mm.
the scope of substance includes theories, concept. It will be reviewed in the literature review, which will later introduce the process. The
Mm.
keyword used in the study, I think you should change to key substance thing instead of using keyword. And I suggest you to use let's say, for example, architecture, urban planning, and also urban design, and so on and so on.
Mm.
On replacing your keywords such as regional arrangement, principle of spatial planning, concept of zoning, and road corridor. Okay, and then on table 3.1, I think Ode misses the operational definition, but you have put them on your PPT. I think it's okay. Chapter 3.4.2. From what I've been reading on your research proposal, it looks that you employ random sampling. But on the other hand, you stated that you will be using the purposive sampling. Can you explain that?
I think the purposive sampling is for the stakeholders, Pak, and
Uh,
the random sampling is basically for the population. So I just give it to the all of the visitors that going and the Antara corridor as a visitors.
yeah. So which one are you going to use? The random sampling or the purposive sampling? Because random sampling is part of the probability sampling, and purposive sampling is part of the non-probability sampling. That two different things.
I think I'll just go with the purposively
Purposive.
sampling. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Okay, Pak Ananda, I think that's all from me.
Thank you very much for your valuable feedback, Pak Rudi. Pak Ilman.
Thank you, Pak Nanda. Thank you, Pak Rudi. I will try to speak in English since you are an IUP student. First of all, in the background, I think what I can suggest to you is describing how the image in the Pasar Baru developed over the history, like from the colonials, the revolution period, and then the Orde Baru, Reformasi, up until current conditions. So you have a strong reasons that how is it so important to analyze or to identify or to preserve the image of the historical image of the Pasar Baru. So how is it important that you have the strong reason to state that how important it is. So you have to mention first in the background, like how the image of the Pasar Baru developed over the periods, and what has been changed, and regarding the activities, the function, and so on and so on. And then based on your presentations, I still I haven't seen the literature review about historical city development, because you are talking about the historical image of historical corridor. So you have to put a literature review regarding historical city development in I don't know, in any region, for example, regarding the ethnic diversity, the activities, what the function and the mobility. So because this historical corridor or historical city center, usually they are degraded during the times. You know what I mean? Because of the decentralization and so on and so on. So first, you have to have this literature background regarding how the city center or city or how historical city developed during times, and what are the factors and the variables, for example, diversity, activities, and so on and so on. And then regarding the targets, the first target is to formulate the criteria and principle history based on study literature. This is what I mean, the literature of the how the city development criteria. Have you put any literature regarding this?
I just put some definitions, not like factors or aspects, not
Yeah.
that depth yet.
Because we cannot make a formulation criteria based on the definitions. You understand? So we have to see, and you have to study more in depth. I think the problem here is you are lacking the right literature, the historical city development literature. So you still don't have any factors and variables regarding those area for the input of your first target. So what I can suggest to you is to put those literature and make it into your variables for your analysis in the first target, and then you cannot analyze, of course, by yourself. You need experts, so you can use Delphi methods, because you need expert opinions regarding choosing the right criteria and principles regarding the historical city development. And then for the second target, I think then you can use the interview, you can use the sample, the sample in the people around those historical area. For example, you can use the cluster sampling to differentiate between the customer or the waiters in the shop, and also with different and any different activities and functions happening in those area. So you can use the cluster sampling methods in order to carry out the interview, and then to identify the current conditions based on the output of the first target. That's what I can suggest to you. And then my next questions regarding the output of your research. Is it only the identifications, or you want to propose suggestions to for the further development?
No, it's only the identification. I don't put any suggestions for
Okay, so
the
the targets is you can stop there. So you don't at first I thought that you want to create a suggestion, so um, you need to have more literature regarding the method of the historical preservations, but since you are not going that way, so the research will be only two targets. Okay, I think
okay.
yeah, thank you, Pak Nanda. I think that's all I can suggest to Mbak Ode.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pak Ilman. Pak Rudi, do you have any additional comments before we end this session?
It's probably because Pa Ilman mentioned about the first target and need to put more literature related to the historical area and the city development. It's pretty hard to find the literature related to the historical image or historical areas, forming identity, some things like that. So I think I'll try to find another way to get the factors or elements that make it and the basically how to answer number one more specifically. Thank you.
Well, you are in you are right now in Europe where you have access to resources associated with history, especially urban history. You're now in Central Europe, as a matter of fact, and their libraries have an extensive and excellent collection with regards to history. I think I told you before, you need to talk to the librarians there. They will help you find the literature you need. You're in the right place now to conduct research about urban history. Talk to your professors there about urban history and how cities develop over time, how cities develop their image over time. So make very good use of your time there. I know you're there until January or February, so make the most out of your stay there. One of the reasons why I approved this topic for you is because you're in Europe right now, and that's the perfect place to be, especially when you talk about history and heritage. So yeah, do that and I'm sure you'll be fine with any sort of literature. Okay. I can see Finka is waiting is in the waiting room right now. So Ode, you may say you may acknowledge you may say thank you to the examiners for their constructive feedback and subsequently end your presentation.
Okay, so thank you for Pak Ilman and also Pak Putu for being my examiners today, and thank you for all of the suggestions and the time for taking a look at my final project and my thesis. And also thank you for Pak Pananda for along all of the time for the supervisors. Thank you.
You're
My
welcome.
You're
my
welcome.
pleasure. Okay. I will admit and you and Ode can leave the meeting room. Thank you. Have a nice day, Ode.
Permisi Pak, makasih semuanya.
Di tempat saya background noise-nya gergaji mesin, gergaji listrik. Kudunya aku pindah merono kudunya.
Ke sini aja, Pak. Ke sini, Pak.
Nanggung, Pak. Tingkat 1. Okay. Finka, welcome to the examination room, virtual examination room. Sorry for the delay. There was a bit of a delay. There was a bit of a delay in the previous sessions. So, but to make well, just to make things go a bit faster, I'll let you know that you have about 20 to 30 minutes to present your proposal, and then we will subsequently discuss and provide, and the examiners will provide you with some feedback and thoughts. So to Finka, the time and the floor is yours.
Good morning, Pak Prananda, Pak Ilman, and Pak Rudi. So today I'm going to present my seminar proposal about the corridor design principles for Jalan Pejompongan, Tanah Abang district, based on the visitor and the trader needs. So for this presentation, there's some introduction, literature review, research methodology, and the general description. For the background, the state of urban road corridors in Indonesia is inadequately managed and developed, causing conflicts between road users and vehicles that cause low safety and comfort. Several road corridor arrangements that have been implemented only accommodate government ideas without considering the user needs and preferences. In Pejompongan Road Corridor, irregularity occurs as activity intensity increases. The increased traffic generation causes congestion at several points, including massive and irregular on-street parking, street vendor informal activities, and pedestrians walking on the road shoulder due to limited pedestrian paths. The lack of public facilities along the Jalan Pejompongan corridor exacerbates the issue of changing the function of sidewalks, which should be used for pedestrians but are now occupied by the street vendors. The problem formulation of this research is what are the principles of designing pedestrian paths in the Pejompongan Road Corridor according to the needs of visitors and traders. And the goal is to develop the principles of designing Pejompongan Road Corridor to optimize the performance of road corridors and commercial functions of the area by considering the needs of traders and visitors. There are some objectives. The first objective is to identify road corridor design criteria based on literature review and laws and regulations following the conditions of Pejompongan Road Corridor. The second objective is analyzing the preferences of pedestrians and traders for pedestrian lane facilities in Pejompongan Road Corridor. And the last objective is to formulate the design principles of Pejompongan Road Corridor based on the needs of visitors and traders. This is the geographical scope of this research. The scope of this research is the 900-meter long Pejompongan Road Corridor in Bendungan Hilir, Tanah Abang, Central Jakarta, beginning at the border of Gatot Subroto and Pejompongan Raya Street and ending at the intersection of Pejompongan Raya Street and Danau Tondano Street. This is the framework of thinking. For the background, the road corridor is a public space and a factor in shaping the city's image, influencing vehicle activity and movement. The Pejompongan Road Corridors is a multi-use corridor designed as urban center area, but the corridor is in erratic and poor condition and lack of public facilities, and the design does not take the user needs into account, and the lack of public facilities exacerbated changes in the function of existing sidewalks. So the pedestrian paths based on the needs of visitors and traders are required to support travel activities in the area. Problem formulation is what are the directions for designing the Jalan Pejompongan corridor according to the needs of traders and visitors. And the goal is to develop the principles of designing the Pejompongan Road Corridor to optimize the performance of road corridors and commercial functions of the area by considering the needs of traders and visitors. The targets are identify road corridor design criteria based on literature review and laws and regulations following the condition of Pejompongan Road Corridor, analyzing the preferences of pedestrians and traders for pedestrian lane facilities in Pejompongan Street Corridor, and formulate the design principles of Pejompongan Road Corridor based on the needs of visitors and traders. The output of this research is the design principle for Pejompongan Road Corridor based on user and traders' needs, which can be used as a direction or input for the DKI Jakarta provincial government in structuring the Pejompongan Road Corridor. For the literature review, the first is urban center area. The urban center area is a section of the city that is a conglomeration of various urban activities with a focus on commercial activities and services, according to Murphy. And according to Pontoh and Kustiwan, the downtown area is a part of the city area where various activities such as social, economic, and cultural that serve city residents are concentrated. So in conclusion, the urban area is a part of the city area which has an agglomeration of various social, economic, and cultural activities with a focus on commercial activities and services, as well as a range of internal urban services and the surrounding area. According to Redstone, there are some urban center development elements such as pedestrian malls or converting roads in commercial areas into pedestrian paths for commercial purposes, downtown regional centers, or develop regional scale trade in urban centers that are directly connected to existing facilities, megastructure or single multifunctional building that houses commercial activities, offices, hotels, apartments, and parking facilities, basements that serves as a medium for mass transportation interconnection, a pedestrian circulation system that separates pedestrian and vehicular traffic, and provide visitors to the urban core with comfort, security, and easy access. The air rights, meaning that buildings in the city center must have clear boundaries to comply with airspace utilization regulations. Environmental arts, as art serves as an element that brings spirit and aesthetic satisfaction to urban center area development. And last is road equipment. The completeness of the road is related to art, architecture, and the formation of the city's overall image. Second literature is road corridor, or a space between two opposing faces of buildings that are connected to the road, according to Bishop. And according to Carr, road corridors are public spaces that can be used by the entire community to serve social activities, movements, and other purposes. So the road corridor can be defined as the space between two faces of the building that is directly related to the road and serves to facilitate movement and social activities. And according to C. Wright, there are some road corridor elements such as signage, that the types of road equipments as warnings, prohibitions, orders, or instructions for pedestrians, lighting that place every 10 meters with a maximum height of 4 meters, safety fences that plant at a specific point with a height of 90 centimeters, which is dangerous and requires protection, the vegetation or shades in the form of trees, roofs, etc., the bins that place to collect pedestrian waste, bollards to prevent motorized vehicles to pass through the pedestrian zone, seats that place 10 meters between seats, and ramps or a path that has a certain slope planned for pedestrians and people with disabilities. Next is road corridor design that must at least meet some criteria, which are designing road as public spaces, encouraging economic activities, flexibility, prioritizing safety, and maintaining the balance of ecosystem, according to NACTO. And there are some road equipment design, according to Permen PU number 3 of 2014, which are drainage that serves to accommodate and drain water in the pedestrian space, placed side by side or under the pedestrian path structure. The green line that serves as a shade for pedestrians, placed side by side with a minimum width of 150 centimeters. Lighting that placed with a distance of 10 meters between lamps and a lamp height of 4 meters. the seats. That place with a distance of 10 meters between seats. The minimum dimensions of the seats are 40 to 50 centimeters wide and 150 centimeters long. Trash cans that place between 20 meters, markings and signage placed on amenity lanes at points of social interaction on paths with dense pedestrian flows, and bus stops that must be placed at every 300-meter radius or at potential points of the area, and crossing facilities that can be in the form of a level crossing, a bridge, or an underground. And the visual image of a good corridor is associated with beauty. According to Arifah, that attractive design of the pedestrian paths, pattern pedestrian path materials, attractive colored materials, decorative shade trees and roadside plants, and attractive lighting designs all contribute to the beauty of the pedestrian paths. And there are some previous research. The first research is in 2020, titled Perancangan Koridor dari Ketapang 1 Kota Kupang. The research indicator are functional, accessible, comfortable, and aesthetic with descriptive qualitative method, and the result is a design solution in the development of the dari Ketapang 1 corridor towards a green concept, environmentally friendly and providing comfort for pedestrians and cyclists. By optimizing the existing corridor, transit facilities for pedestrians and cyclists, green pergolas, and vegetation along the corridor. The second research is in 2016, titled Konsep Penataan Lingkungan Koridor Berbatas Pagar Perumahan Skala Besar. The research indicator are linkage, comfort, activity, clarity and enjoyment, spatial character, sharpness, the principle of regional view, harmony, and integration of scale and form by field observatory, and the result is the provision of street food courts along Jalan Kejawen Putih, the addition of visual aesthetics in form of trees and pedestrian ways beside the guardrail with Pakuan City housing, visual linkage, parks, and the provision of pedestrian paths. And the last research is in 2014, titled The Application of Sustainable Urban Street Concept in Ahmad Yani Surabaya Street Corridor Arrangement to improve the quality of corridor environment, with the research indicator of mobility, ecology, and economy in descriptive quantitative method. The results are the improvement in environmental quality along Jalan Ahmad Yani by increasing the corridor's sustainability, the design of road corridors that provide equal rights to all groups of road users, such as people with disabilities, and the design of road corridors that can improve the aesthetic quality of the road and the corridor's socio-economic value. And the synthesis for this research, the first indicator is accessibility with pedestrian path and ramp and disability infrastructure as variable from kajian tentang jalur pedestrian berdasarkan aspek kenyamanan. Second indicator is convenience with sitting area, signage, street lamp, and trash bin as variable from Permen PU number 3 of 2014. The fourth indicator is safety with bollard, crossing path, and safety fence as variable from kajian tentang jalur pedestrian berdasarkan aspek kenyamanan. And last indicator is attractiveness with vegetation as variable from Permen PU number 3 of 2014, and beauty from the pedestrian perception based on sidewalk level of convenience at Pemuda Street. The research variables for this research is the first indicator is accessibility with pedestrian path, means provide pedestrian paths in the form of sidewalks or road shoulders with special pedestrian marker lines. Second variable is ramp and disability infrastructure. They provide facilities for groups with disabilities, such as ramps with no more than 8% elevation and guiding blocks. Second indicator is convenience. With the first variable is sitting area. Provide sitting area for pedestrian with a distance of 10 meters. Second variable is signage. Provide clear signage regarding the facilities. The third variable is street lamp, meaning provide adequate lighting. And the fourth variable is trash bin, meaning provide bins outside the pedestrian-free path at a distance of 15 to 20 meters. The third indicator is safety. The first variable is bollard. Provide bollards to keep motorized vehicles from entering pedestrian facilities. Second variable is crossing paths. Provide crossing facilities such as zebra crossing, pelican crossing, and pedestrian bridges. The third variable is safety fence. Plant at a specific point with a height of 90 centimeters. And the last indicator is attractiveness. The first variable is vegetation. Provide adequate vegetation or shade. And the second variable is beauty. Provide beauty elements such as patterned pedestrian path materials, attractive colored materials, decorative shade trees, and roadside plants, and attractive lighting design. The research approach used in the study is the rationalistic study approach, or that emphasizes arguments based on the findings of a literature review, depends on observation, which will then be based on and test against the accepted theories. And the research type is a mixed method research that combines qualitative and quantitative methods to produce more comprehensive, valid, and reliable and objective data. And the data collection method for the primary data is done through observation and questionnaire distribution, and for the secondary data done through literature review. The population in this study are pedestrian moving through the Pejompongan Raya Street within a predetermined area delineation. Because the population of the pedestrian path user is unknown to certainty, so in this study, I used the Lemesel formula to calculate the sample, and from the calculation, a total of 96 respondents were obtained, which were then rounded up to 100 respondents. And the respondents were selected using the purposive sampling method to determine them with some criteria. The first criteria is people aged 15 to 65 years, people who administratively live in Jakarta or have Jakarta IDs, and people who pass by or walk along Jalan Pejompongan Raya at least once in the previous 6 months. And the analysis used for the first objectives is descriptive qualitative analysis. Through this research method, author identified the condition of pedestrian paths in Pejompongan Raya Street Corridor by conducting a primary survey through the field observations. The output is the characteristic of condition and availability of pedestrian paths and facilities based on indicators and variables that have been formulated. For the second objective, the analysis is analytical hierarchy process with questionnaire as data collection method, and the output is knowing the preferences of pedestrians for pedestrian path facilities to be applied in the development direction of pedestrian paths in the Pejompongan Road Corridor. And for the last objective, the analysis I use is the triangulation analysis. The purpose of the triangulation method is to make the corridor design principle sharper, relevant, and applicable to the actual condition of Jalan Pejompongan Raya. The data collection methods is through literature review, and the output is the design principle for the pedestrian paths based on the preferences of visitors and traders. The research stages is first one is problem formulation, literature review, data collection, data analysis, and conclusion. For the study area orientation, the Pejompongan Street Corridor which serves as the research area is located in Tanah Abang, Central Jakarta, DKI Jakarta, which is 900 meters long, and the administrative boundaries of Jalan Pejompongan Corridor are in northern boundary is Jalan Pertamburan 7, in southern boundary is Jalan Danau Tondano, in western boundary is Jalan Gatot Subroto, and eastern boundary is Jalan Penjernihan 1. The district's dominant land uses are for settlements, offices, and trade. And because of its proximity to the city government, this area is a strategic location for both native Jakartans and migrants from outside Jakarta to live and trade. And due to the dense trading activity in Tanah Abang sub-district, many street vendors have converted the sidewalks and road bodies into their selling areas. And this is the survey design of this research. For the first target, the data sources from primary and secondary survey through observation. And the analysis method is descriptive qualitative analysis. And the output is characteristic of condition and availability of pedestrian paths and facilities based on indicators and variables that have been formulated. For the second target, the data is from primary survey through questionnaire, and the analysis method is analytical hierarchy process. The output is knowing the preferences of pedestrians for pedestrian path facilities to be applied in the development direction of pedestrian paths in the Pejompongan Road Corridor. And for the last target, the data source is from secondary survey through literature review. The analysis method is triangulation, and the output is the design principle for the pedestrian paths based on the preferences of visitors and traders. And that's all from my presentation today.
Thank you very much, Finka. First of all, before moving on to the examiners, is this the way you normally speak? Your tone and volume, is that the way you normally speak?
Yes, Pak.
Okay. In the upcoming presentation, you need to be a bit more lively to show confidence and assertiveness. Okay, a bit more energy next time. I know it's only what 6 o'clock in the morning there, but you know, you need a bit more kick into it. So moving on to the examiners now, I'd like to invite Pak Rudi to provide us with his feedback and comments.
Thank you, Pak Nanda. Hi, Finka. Good morning.
Good morning, Pak Rudi.
Yeah, as Pak Nanda said before, you have to be more vitality. Okay. Atifa Nanda Putri Finka. This is your complete name. And sorry, I'm going to check what's your topic. Prinsip perancangan koridor Pejompongan. Okay. I read the background part of your research proposal. I may suggest you that you should that the last part of that the last paragraph of on the background section of your research proposal should be consisting urgency of the research. And then I jump to the problem statement on your research proposal. Research problem. You mentioned that as a result, it's necessary to design a corridor capable of accommodating needs of visitors and traders in order supporting Pejombongan function and commercial corridor and movement space. Movement space. Yeah. You, I will be highlighting the irregular pedestrian ways. Yeah, you mentioned that. I want to ask whether the irregular pedestrian ways is your main problem statement, Finka?
Yes, Pak.
So you will be starting your research uh, by by using or by employing the irregular pedestrian ways as a problem statement, and on your and I will be I will relate your problem statement with your research goals. Yeah. So it is written here that your research proposal is the research aims to develop the principles of designing. So I want to ask you, what is the correlation between irregular pedestrian ways and principles of designing?
What I mean by designing by formulating the design principle of Pejombongan Road Corridor based on the needs of visitors and riders is to overcome the irregularity of the existing condition of Pejombongan Raya Corridor.
Yeah. So it means that you are going to define, or you are going to formulate the principles of principle of design of the Pejombongan Road just only to overcome the irregular pedestrian ways. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Then I will relate that with the this the other research objective statement. You were using the term identify or identifying road corridor on your first research objective. I suggest that identifying is not part of the objective statement, since identifying is not containing analytical activities. So I suggest to you that on the first research objective, you can formulate the analysis of the criteria. Sorry, to formulate the criteria, or to formulate the factors that associated with the road corridor, and then yeah, on the other specifically on your third research objective, you wrote formulate the development direction of the road corridor, of Pejombongan road corridor. But on your on the other way, on the other hand, you wrote the research aims to develop the principle. Yeah. Yeah. And how do you clarify that? What is the difference between formulation of development direction and the formulation of design principle?
Also, sorry, sir, to clarify that, I revised the draft of the paper to formulate the design principle of Pejombongan Road Corridor not the development of Pejompongan Road Corridor, sir.
So, so the right one is the which one? For formulate the development direction.
The right one is the formulate the design principle of Pejompongan Road Corridors.
Design principle. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. You select the design principle as your formulation of research goal. Okay. Okay. I will come up with the subchapter 2.5 regarding synthesis. Synthesis, as all student knows, that synthesis should be initiated by doing descriptive analysis of the literature review prior to formulate the indicators and variables. So the researchers it's not just listing or compiling all the variables. Next, I will discuss about the operational definitions. Why do all definitions that you have been formulating, starting with the term provide, let's say,
The operational definition starting with provide.
yeah, for example, pedestrian path has been defined by provide pedestrian path, and then ramp and disability infrastructure has been defined as provide facilities. Seating area has been defined as provide seating area. Yeah. Why did you do that?
I put the term provide to I mean that to put provide to apply these variables into the Pejompongan Street Corridor.
I think I think it's taken off or trying to find a replacement for ketersediaan. I think that's why provide is perhaps the closest term that Finka can find to replace, or that is equivalent to ketersediaan. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, Pak Prananda.
Okay. Okay. That was clear, I think. But you should use a provision, I think, instead of using provide on this thing. Okay. And the last comment from me, and on table 3.2. Okay, let me check table 3.2. Yeah, 3.2 refers to data collection method, analytical method, and the output and the research output. Okay. On this table, specifically on your second item, that refers to the analyzing the preference of pedestrian and traders. You are going to use the AFP tools. On the other hand, you have been defining that the sample uh, it's about 100, I think. My question is, how do you manage how do you manage to how do you manage to uh, how do you manage to using ASP by employing 100 respondents?
I think I will do an online questionnaire, and then I will distribute the questionnaire to the people uh, living living close to the Pejompongan Road.
Yeah. Do you understand what is the what is the research what is the idea behind the using of ASP tools?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, ASP tools as the tools usually used by the uh, uh, by the probability method, yeah, probability sampling method, yeah. But as far as I know, that if you are using Slovene, uh, uh, if you are using Slovene formula to generate 96 respondent, this is associated with the sample random sampling, I think. Is that right? If you are, if the researcher is going to use the ASP, it means that the sampling method should be purposive sampling. But if you are using 100 respondents, it looks that it will be associated with the random sampling. Any comment? Any comment about this?
Finka, what Pak Rudy is trying to say is the analytical hierarchy process is more suitable to use with purposive sampling methods rather than random sampling, because you do realize that you will have to analyze several variables that will and you will have 100 respondents providing you with 100 different inputs on each variable. It will be a very daunting task. It will be a very, very large it's a large amount of data that will be generated from 100 respondents if you're going to use the AHP tool. So you may need to consider another tool other than the analytical hierarchy process, or you may need to rethink your respondents. That's what Pak Rudy is trying to say. It's a lot.
Okay, Abrananda.
Yeah, okay, Finka. Because if I open if I read your subchapter 3.1, research approach, you wrote you are using, it looks that you are using the rationalistic approach instead of using positivistic approach. Yeah, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all, Pak Prananda.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Pak Rudy. There's a lot to think about there. Pak Ilman?
Okay, thank you, Pak Nanda, for your for the time. Hello, how can I call you? Atifa or Putri?
Atifa.
Atifa, okay. Mbak Atifa, first of all, I'd like to ask you, why do you choose the Penjompongan corridor? Why is it important to conduct this research using this Penjompongan corridor as your study case?
Because as I read on the internet, there are some effort to overcome the irregularities of the Pajompongan Raya corridor, but the effort failed on 2014, and I think that's one of the reasons.
Why do you mean by irregularities?
I mean,
What do you mean by irregularities?
sorry, I mean the road corridor is in poor condition due to its street vendors.
Okay, so the main problem that you have to state in your background is the street vendors. Are they legal or are they illegal occupying the corridor?
They are illegal, sir.
Okay, so I think that's the main issues in your background. Why you want to do these things, yeah? And then first, in the literature review, you also have to mention about the type of the pedestrians, the typology of pedestrians, and also the typology of the streets, which I haven't seen in your literature review. Because based on the literature review, that's the criteria how to deal with those illegal street vendors, right? And also you have to also use the literature review about the I think city management in order to how you want to reallocate those street vendors since they are occupying their illegal, and also the pedestrians. Of course, the pedestrians is a network. It doesn't work only in a corridor alone. It has to be relations with the surrounding neighborhoods. So you also have to take into your considerations regarding the surrounding neighborhoods in how is it related with the Pejompongan corridor. And also in your title, what do you mean by based on visitor needs?
I mean the design principle
Based on visitor and trader needs. What do you mean by based on visitor and trader needs?
I mean that the design principle should consider the preferences of the visitor and traders. So
since the traders are illegal, why do you need to consider those needs?
So it can be beneficial for both parties.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, if they are illegal, it's just a matter of time that they have to move from that corridor. Is it true, or you want to keep those illegal street vendors?
I want to keep those vendors, but should be in line with the design principles.
Yeah, I
Then-
mean, keeping those illegal street vendor is against the law. So basically, you how to say this study is going to melegitimasikan keberadaan mereka. Sedangkan itu apa namanya keberadaan mereka kan melanggar peraturan gitu ya, sehingga jangan sampai studi ini melegitimasikan keberadaan mereka sebagai dasar mereka untuk tetap berada di sana. So this study should conduct the research how to solve these problems, not only just by design principle of the road corridor or pedestrian corridor. The real problem is the street vendors. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think you have to do a lot more changing your literature review based on those how to solve those kind of problem. And also I agree with Pak Rudy. You should conduct the AHP methods by purposive sampling. You have to have an expert to analyze, to prioritize the variable and also the indicators that you have collected by the literature. And then you can interview the populations there based on the priority of the AHP output. I think for me that's enough, Pak Nanda. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Ilman. There are some crucial points there that will then that will ultimately reshape or reframe Finka's work. But nonetheless, I think this is I think the input that the input that we received today is doable in the time frame given. Pak Rudi, do you have any additional comments before we end the session? Okay, good. Great. Thank you very much, Pak Rudi and Pak Ilman, for your constructive feedback. And Finka, you may acknowledge the examiners now and subsequently end this session.
Thank you, Pak Ilman and Pak Rudy, for the feedback. And thank you, Pak Prananda, for supervising me in this research. And that's all from me.
Perfect. Right. I will stop recording now. And